1,500 minerals income discrepancy between the two players right now. And Azreal looks like he's going to be able to take out this expansion. Meanwhile, he also has some units moving in the back of KillerPlague's base. He did manage to take out that pylon that he was using to warp units in, and try to take out some of those zealots, but the Nexus does go down at the expansion. So Azreal, once again, in very, very good shape. He, of course, has his expansion up and running, calling down some mules right now there to get that little boost in the mineral income. So, and as you can see, there is a pretty big discrepancy in the harvester count. It looks like about 15 difference in the harvester count, plus you got to factor in the mules as well. So there is a very, very big income lead for Azreal right now. If he can hold on, he's in very good shape to take this game down and win it all for the SD2 Armory.
Yeah, definitely. And again, we see KillerPlague just being a little bit too stubborn with those Colossus. He needs to continue to pump Immortals. The Colossus are not the units that you want to use against tanks. They're actually probably the worst unit to use against tanks.
He actually does have a lot more gateways this game. The last couple games we've seen him play, and he does not get a lot of gateways. He tries to stick, he basically uses 3 gateways, and I've seen him usually go for 2 of the robotics bays, or robotics facilities rather. But oh man, it looks like Azreal making a little bit of a blunder there. For some reason, he decided to try to focus fire down the Colossi, and his army moved out of position and took a lot of hits from those Stalkers and Zealots while those Colossi were running away, and that was probably a big mistake. That actually cost him a lot of units.
Yeah, he didn't siege those tanks up. If he would have been able to siege those tanks up, I think he would have been able to outrange those Colossus and taken them out a lot more effectively.
Yeah, absolutely, and it looks like he was able to hold that off, but he may have just let KillerPlague back into this game by giving him so many free units in that last exchange that they had.
However, he still does have a huge economic advantage.
Yeah, absolutely, and KillerPlague is going to need to get an expansion up and running again as soon as possible, because we're going to see a very similar situation if he doesn't from last game, because last game Azreal was basically able to outproduce him initially and just get a much bigger army, which allowed him to pretty much steamroll KillerPlague. So if KillerPlague is not able to get an expansion up and running here soon, we're probably going to see a similar situation. And it looks like the Colossi moving out once again here with the help of some Zealots and Stalkers, and these tanks are going to be forced to back off. This is actually a pretty scary army. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, he might be going for some all-in right now. You know, he knows he doesn't have the economic advantage, so he's just going to push hard.
Yeah, instead of going for that expansion, it looks like he's invested a lot of his money in trying to beef up the forces that he did have in an effort to move out across the map. He apparently realizes that he spiked a little bit of an advantage in the army when he was able to take out so many of those tanks and marauders when they were trying to chase this Colossi down and just letting those Stalkers and Zealots beat on them.
Yeah, definitely.
And it looks like this infantry army from Azreal moving out and getting taken down a few of those units by the combined fire of those Colossi and Stalkers. But with the range upgrade, these Colossi just have such a long range that it's really, really difficult to get anything to attack them. And KillerPlague apparently deciding that attacking right now is a bad idea. He's decided to get his expansion back up and running, going to play a little bit more defensively. Meanwhile, Azreal has started another expansion at the bottom middle portion of the map at the 12 o'clock position. So that command center almost done, and once again, he is staying ahead of KillerPlague in the expansion game.
Yeah, this is probably the right decision by KillerPlague. You know, he is behind in the economy, but I think it would be pretty foolish to, you know, attack those siege tanks head on right now.
Yeah, he did have a small window of opportunity there, but it looks like he delayed just a little bit too much. And apparently there was some lag because these players looked like they were upset there for a little bit about the game lagging. But wow, a lot of units moving out here. There is a ton of infantry just getting dominated by these Colossi.
Great positioning from those Colossi though right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And a force field going down right on top of a siege tank. I've never seen that before. That was kind of interesting. But the Colossi just running in here and taking out these last remaining marauders as they're trying to run away. But there are 4 Colossi here, which is enough to do some serious damage. If he does not get this under check here very soon, Azreal could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, at the same time, you know, we talked about the blunder that KillerPlague made last time by going so heavy on the Colossi when he needed Immortals. I think Azreal should have gone a little bit more heavy on the tanks here. That's what he needs to take down those Colossus, but he's continuing to pump Marauders, which really aren't very effective against those units.
Yeah, absolutely. That last battle that we saw where KillerPlague was really able to break into the base, Azreal was very heavy on the infantry, and as you can see, he's got 4 barracks out here, and then going back into his base, we'll just leave that battle for a second, he's got 3 more, so only 1 factory here to produce tanks, and he has got 7 total barracks, it looks like, which is a pretty big difference. So at this point in time, though, I don't think that KillerPlague is aware yet. He is not yet aware of that extra expansion that's at the bottom of the map. So if Azreal can manage to hold on to that, he might be able to get a slight economic advantage without KillerPlague even realizing it. But it looks like right now he's just going to try to play the defensive game and try to hold this army off so that he can indeed stay in it, losing one of his barracks, and it looks like another barracks is going to go down here very shortly if he's not careful.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that Azreal has let this happen. He normally has, really great tech decisions, but I just think that amount of Marauders was pretty stupid.
Yeah, absolutely, especially against the Colossi. As you can see, just 3 or 4 Colossi can do a ton of damage to a mostly infantry army, and that's exactly what we saw right there. Azreal managing to get up a planetary fortress at the secondary expansion that he put up, but he's got to hope and
Can
pray.
a Colossus outrange a planetary fortress? Oh, I thought we were going to see it attack there.
I think it does. We'll have to wait and see when they move down there, but I think with the range upgrade, they do indeed outrange the planetary fortress. Oh, and these tanks, I think, are getting a little bit too close. Yeah, it looks like Azreal realizes it and backs off. Fortunately, he was able to get those out of there before he actually sustained some heavy losses. But these Colossi are actually going to manage to get out of the range of siege tanks because the siege tanks, for some reason, decided to attack the Zealot instead of the Colossi when they were in range. But KillerPlague, once again, backing off. He has managed to get his expansion up and running again. So he is actually going to have a pretty big income advantage right now. You can see that Azreal is literally not mining at all, and unfortunately, when he bunched all of his SCVs up at this expansion, or at this entrance, you can see that he's breaking down these rocks now. A lot of his SCVs were lost when he was trying to transfer them to his expansion. And this Protoss army is moving out now. Oh, manages to get some great shots off on that infantry army. And unfortunately, with only 3 tanks left for Azreal, I don't think he's going to be able to hold this game on. He's dropping a lot of mules right now to try to pick up some extra minerals at this base and jumpstart his economy. But it looks like KillerPlague is aware that something is going on. He's moving around the map right now, trying to find any extra expansions that he may not be aware of. And he does find the planetary fortress. And as you can see, that planetary fortress indeed does get outranged by those Colossus, frantically trying to repair it. While his army was into position. That planetary fortress is very good against Zealots, and I'm not sure why he's got the Colossi so close to it, but is going to try to hold off this army while he gets to his position. But the Colossi are going to have to back off with these Zealots, so he manages to hold off and survive another day.
Yeah, great play healing that planetary fortress by Azreal. He did lose a large amount of SCVs in that battle, but he saved his only mining base right now.
Yeah, I am going to mention this too. One of the things that people have mentioned that they think is overpowered about the Terran army, we talked about this a little bit in the last game, is that the planetary fortress, if you've got a handful of SCVs healing it, is impossibly difficult to kill, it seems, especially if you've got the support of an army. And we could see there that even with an unopposed army of Zealots and Colossi, it was not able to take down that planetary fortress because he had so many SCVs healing it.
It definitely is difficult to take down. I don't know what, you're a Zerg player, Kai. What have you found to be the most effective way of taking one down? Obviously air units.
Brood Lords.
Brood Lords kill everything.
No, but seriously, I found that if you can get some Mutalisks and some Zerglings, that's actually a pretty good combination, because with the speed upgrade for the Zerglings, they can get such a quick surround on the command center, on the planetary fortress, that it's really difficult for them to heal. And it looks like we are seeing another battle. This may be the last battle of the game, because that was Azreal's main army right there, and it just got decimated. And he does have this one main mining base still up and running, and he's got the planetary fortress, but he has nothing to defend his main base right now, so he is about to lose his entire check tree. And he is going to say GG. So.
Yeah, I really like that decision by KillerPlague to go heavy Zealots with his Colossus. Those things take the auto fire from your tanks, and the Colossus can just pick everything else off while that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And Azreal saying, thought I had you, and indeed he was in very good position. As we mentioned earlier, though, I think the big mistake for him was the battle that occurred just outside the secondary ramp at the back of KillerPlague's base. He tried to focus fire down the Colossi with his infantry and his tanks. He took a lot of damage from the supporting Zealots and Stalkers that were in front of those Colossi while they were trying to while those Terran units were trying to chase down the Colossi. So he took a ton of damage there, and I think that really shifted the balance of the game, because he then did not have enough of a main army to defend against the force that KillerPlague was putting together.
Yeah, definitely. And I also didn't like the decision of Azreal to go so heavy on those Marauders. Colossi are just so effective against them.
Yeah, absolutely. He needed more tanks to defend against those Colossi effectively. So we are going to move on to Game 3, the ace match right now. It is 1-1.
Best of 3.
So this is going to be the final match to decide which community team has better StarCraft 2 players.
GG, Akaya.
GG.